right. Thank you for joining, everybody. This is going to be our first Mitel webinar of 2023, if anybody can believe that it's already 2023. Today, we're going to have Steve Hall, one of our senior engineers, actually is our most senior engineer here at Verteks, and he's going to be going over end user tips, ticks, and training. My name's Brittany Dufilly. I'm the Educational and Outreach Coordinator here at Verteks. With that, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Steve. Steve, it's all yours.
Thank you, Brittany. Good morning, everybody, and Happy New Year. As Brittany said, we're going to be taking a look at the Mitel Connect from the user interface perspective, kind of focused on the Mitel Connect client today, and kind of giving an overview of the software as well as diving into some of the more kind of advanced or power user features in there. So as you guys see, I do have the Mitel Connect window open here. This is the latest version of the Mitel Connect application. A couple of updates ago, they did change the look and feel of the program a little bit. So if you know, this is kind of the all blue on blue screen, which denotes kind of the latest iteration of the software. If yours kind of has the white and gray look to it, that was the one that they've been using for the past several years. All these same features are in there. The look is just a little bit kind of updated in the latest version. And if your system has not been updated to that, it probably will be soon, or if not, you can always reach out to one of our engineers here on the help desk team and talk about an upgrade and what that might bring to your system. So I want to go ahead and get started here. So this is the software logged in. I do want to take a step back here and let's go back to the login screen here. Oops, I'm going to go ahead and log out of the software. You know, here's what the icon looks like, starting all the way from the beginning. We're going to launch this and bring this over to our window here. This is the login screen here. There's a couple different options here. So I'm going to hit the show advanced so we can see everything here. Obviously, the username, password. Have another option here for use Windows credentials. If your system is set up for AD integration or Active Directory integration, then you can use this checkbox and you won't have to enter a username and password. It's just going to use the Windows credential of the user who's currently logged to this computer to log into the Mitel Connect system. As long as that user also, you know, exists as a telephone user, it'll just log in as that user. Domain, obviously, it fills in from AD. It pulls that information. The server we do have to fill in with either the name typically or the IP address of your server. Now, there's a couple things we can do. You know, if there's an administrator that would like to be able to kind of pre-populate this information for their users, we can actually deploy some of these settings through a Windows group policy to kind of automatically check this checkbox for the users so they don't have to do it. And we can also automatically fill in this server name for our users. So in that case, all they have to do is kind of click on the application and it's going to log right in for them. They don't have to worry about server name or username or any of that. And then the final checkbox we can do here is remember me. And what this means is that it's not going to show me this login screen the next time I click on that Mitel Connect icon. It's just going to, you know, log me in with the settings that I put in the last time. So I'm going to go ahead and log in now. And all right, here we go. So we're logged in. I always like to tell users, you know, if it's first time kind of thing, double check that it does have the right name and extension up here and that we're logged into the right account for the phone, you know, that's on your desk. If you're using a regular Mitel telephone on your desk, make sure that extension is the same because this software, you know, it obviously gives us an interface to the phone system where we can manage the settings related to our account. It also acts as kind of a remote control for our telephone. So for some reason, you know, the logins got crossed or the phones got put on the wrong desk, you could be controlling the phone, you know, in the next office potentially. So I always like to just have you double check that. In this case, it's showing me my name extension, my DID, because I have a DID configured for my telephone extension. So it shows me that. And it shows me that I'm in my available call handling state, which means that I'm ready to take calls. I'm green in the system for other users, so it shows that they can call me. We're going to talk about those availability states a little bit more as we go through here. So the first thing I want to do is, like I said, we're just going to do a little overview here. So starting at the top here, you see this little matrix of dots. This is just the dial pad. So if we are on a call, if there's a live call going and we need to enter some digits, punch in your ID number, or press 1 for this, press 2 for that. You of course can press the digits on your phone if you're on a regular phone, but you can also use this dial pad and bring up the digits here. And enter the digits into the call. You can also dial a call from here. You can also just type in numbers if you're making a call. Maybe if you had a touch screen, it might be nice to come over here and just start, dialing a number that way. But that's where the dial pad is. That comes in a lot when people are using the soft phone. So maybe they don't have a phone on their desk. They just have kind of a headset tied to their computer. And so there is no keypad for them to enter digits. And they need to be able to enter in some digits, like I said, DTMF to navigate an auto attendant menu or something. The dial pad is handy for that. The next thing right here is what they call a quick dialer, where it says name or number right here. There's a little search icon here. We can click in this and we can just type in a phone number if we know the number we want to call. 1-800, whatever it is. But we can also start typing in a name if we want to look for somebody. So if I start typing in Brian, I'm going to find another user on our system here called Brian Picard. This will also search our Outlook contacts, as well as our internal company directory. So real easy to find somebody and call them from the quick dialer. Another thing I like to point out here is from the quick dialer, let me search for another one here. I'm going to search for Jason. That's another user on our system. He's one of the newer guys on our help desk team that you might talk to when you call in. If I highlight Jason here, I'm going to see some more information about him. So on the info tab, I could get his email address, extension number, mobile phone number, messages. This is called the contact card that we're going through here for this user. I can see a history of any IM messages that we have exchanged, a history of any telephone calls that we've exchanged, or any voicemails this user might have left on my extension. But I also wanted to bring your attention to up here next to his name. It's a little bit hard to see because it's kind of white on gray here, but there is a star icon here next to his name. And if I click on it, it's going to shade in that white star blue. It's also going to show up over here. What I've done now is I've actually made him one of my favorite contacts. And by making him one of my favorite contacts, that leads me to the next thing over here, which is the contacts tab here in the Connect client. So if we kind of exit out of our quick dialer, exit out of the contact card for Jason, and I just go to my contacts and look at my favorites, now I'm going to see Jason in here, which he was not previously until I shaded in that star and designated him as one of my favorites. With the contacts view here, I can see all the people, as I said, I've designated as favorites. I can see by the color code here their availability state, so I can see someone who's not available to take a call. I can see with the orange here that someone is, they're on the phone right now. I can see over here, this is the yellow. There's like a clock icon here. It's kind of small, but that means they're in a meeting. So you can get information about people's availability states. And of course, again, I can always click on somebody and I can, again, get that contact card, get information about them, or I can click to call them. You can also double click on a contact to call them. A couple different ways to navigate that contact. Another neat thing is if I have somebody who's on the phone here, I can right click on here. Of course, I've got some options. If I wanted to, maybe she's on the phone here, Terry's on the phone, I could send a voicemail. So if I press this, it's going to walk me through creating a voice message and dropping it into her voicemail box. I could send her an IM, of course, conference. I could just dial her, but she's on the phone. I can also use this option, alert when available, which is kind of neat. So I can set that. And then when she gets off the phone, it's going to pop up on my screen and tell me that Terry is now available, and give me a one-touch button where I can call her real quick and try to catch her before she jumps on that next call. So the alert when available is kind of a neat feature. While we're in the contacts, because this is probably my favorite tab in here, so I do spend a lot of time talking about it. But we also, under contacts, we have groups. So I've got a big long list of favorites here, and of course I got to scroll up and down. But if I want to make things a little bit easier on myself, I can create different groups, and the groups are something that each individual user creates and sorts the users in a way that kind of makes sense to them. So I have an option over here where I can hit the plus sign here, and I can create I can add a contact or I can add a group. So if I want to add a new group, I can simply give this a name, new group. And then from here, I can either take someone from over here and I can drag them into this group. Now they can be a member of multiple groups if that makes sense in the way I want to organize them. So I can drag people over here. I can also just start typing in a name if I want to try to find them that way. So we'll look for, Jason again. And I can add him to this group. Once I create the group, it's going to drop it into the list of my groups here. So right now it's at the top. I got new group here. I can click right here, and I can even start a IM chat conversation with all the members of that group. I could create and send a voicemail that would distribute out and get dropped on the mailboxes of all the people in the group, or schedule a meeting with the group. And then up here is the way you actually edit that group. So if you need to add or remove users from a group you already created, again, you come over here, you click on the little settings icon here, and then the edit button here, and then I can come in here and I can add and remove other people from the group, or I could delete the group entirely. It gives me back the list of groups that I had here before. Now that I'm looking at my groups, I'm primarily on the tech team over here at Verteks. So maybe I don't always need to see the sales. Maybe I don't always need to see the service, help desk team, but I want to keep an eye on the other engineers that I may need to reach out to collaborate with on a problem. So that's my primary view. I can collapse these other groups so that I can focus on the group that I, primarily want to keep an eye on without having to click around too much. So that's handy. All right, and so then the last thing I want to show on the contacts tab is how we can actually use that to facilitate some call handling. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to make a call here. So I'm going to use the quick dialer here to dial a phone number and press enter, and it's going to make this call for me. And I'm just going to answer that and mute the phone here so we don't get any strange noises here. And of course, I do have the contact tab. Don't need to kind of keep an eye on that if I don't want to. But this is what the Connect client looks. Anytime you're on the phone, it's going to show down here at the bottom the calls that you may be on. Now this says calls 1. Right now there's 1 call. So if I had calls on hold or was juggling calls, you'd be able to see that. Of course, this can extend down and show more calls if you're in that sort of maybe a receptionist call handling situation. This active call that I'm on, it shows me a routing slip about the call. The routing slip is kind of neat because it shows the entire history of the call and how it got to me. So in this case, I called the person, so it's a pretty short routing slip. But if this person would have called in, maybe navigated an auto attendant, maybe spoke to somebody else, got transferred to me, all of that's going to show up here in this routing slip. And you can turn that on and off with the button right here. Whether or not you want to see the routing slip. There's a couple of quick icons here where I can transfer the call. I can, right now it's muted, so I can unmute the call, or I could put the call on hold, or I could hang up the call. All right, if I want to transfer the call, I can click this. It's going to open up the details of the call, and it has a couple of recent contacts here, because maybe those are the people I transfer calls to a lot, so they're there for my convenience. Or I can type in a name, again, like say I search for Jason. There he is. I could select him here, and then I could choose, do I just want to do a blind transfer to him, just send the call with no warning? Do I want to do a consult transfer, which basically will put the call that I'm on hold, and then I'll call Jason, be able to tell them who's on the phone and then complete the conference with them. If you have the right permissions, you can do the intercom transfer, which is essentially where you can just come over someone's speakerphone and say, hey, I'm transferring this call to you. You can park the call on someone's extension. If you're not familiar with that, park is like putting a call on hold on a remote extension. So maybe rather than just transfer it to Jason, I can park it where it just kind of sits on hold, gives him a minute to maybe get back to his seat or something before he grabs that call. If Jason was on the phone, I could whisper to him, so I could actually kind of talk in his ear where he would hear me, but the person he's on the phone with would not hear it, and let him know that I've got a call that I need to transfer to him. Or I could just divert this call into Jason's voicemail. So that's, the transfer button. When you click this, you get a lot of different options. But back to the contacts tab, which is why we kind of started this call, because I wanted to show a feature there. If I have my contacts tab open and I'm on a call, this is a feature that receptionists can make use of very nicely. I can take this call and I can drag it over here to one of my contacts. And if I pause for a couple seconds, it's going to give me a list of, again, options on how I can transfer that call. Do I want to do the blind transfer, the consultative transfer, intercom to the mailbox, and so on and so forth, all the different same options, but kind of a faster way to do it. I can just click away if I don't actually want to transfer that call. If I just click and drag and drop real quick, it's just going to do a blind transfer of that call and divert it over to whoever I've dropped it on. But again, if I bring it over here and I pause for a couple seconds, I get this option and I can select what kind of transfer I want to do here on this call. And I can say, for example, let's say transfer to mailbox. I select that and it sends that call off of my phone, and that caller is now listening to their voicemail greeting and getting the opportunity to leave them a message. So that's kind of one of the like I said, best uses of the contacts tab, keeping an eye on folks, and then especially if you're in kind of a receptionist call handling type position, being able to do that drag and drop call handling. As we move down, we've got our recent calls. So this is just our call history. So I can see a history of all the calls that I've placed outbound, which is denoted by this little arrow pointing up and to the right. Inbound calls that came to me with the arrow kind of down and to the left. Missed calls that shows with kind of this little red kind of skip icon here, shows missed calls. I can see all my calls with this tab here. I can see just my missed if I want to click on it this way. You can also come over here and there's an icon here if you need to export your call history for some reason, if you need to keep track of that or share that. You do have an option to download that file to get your call history that way. That one's pretty simple. Moving down, we've got our voicemail tab here. So this shows me my voicemail box in the system. So I can see all the messages I have. I can see unheard messages. So I don't have any unheard new messages. All these messages I have in here are ones that I have listened to. I can also see any saved messages that I may have in here. Of course, if I highlight any of these messages, then I have an opportunity to play the message. Now you have a choice when you're playing a message, whether or not you want to use your computer speakers or whether or not you want to use your telephone to play that message. You can play the message as it kind of moves across the screen. You can skip back if you need to kind of repeat that phone number that they said too quickly. I can take this voicemail message if I need to, and I can reply to it. So I could record a message because this is another internal extension. I could record a voicemail reply and drop it into their mailbox. I could also forward this voicemail to someone else and drop it into another user's voicemail box so they can be responsible for it. Because it's a saved message, I have the option to unsave it or the option to delete it. So if I delete a voicemail message, it actually goes into my deleted voicemails. It doesn't go away immediately. So it actually shows up down here under my deleted voicemails. I can open this up and I can see this is the message we just deleted. The system actually does maintenance every night at 2 a.m. Where it goes through the system and it purges the deleted items. So if for some reason I deleted this message and I decided that I need to actually save it, I can come down here under my deleted and I can restore. It'll put it back up into my saved messages. But I can only do that until, again, 2 a.m. maintenance runs, and it cleans out that deleted items for me every night. So that's kind of how long you have to retrieve those messages. Next tab as we're moving down here is the messages. Now messages here refers to the IM messages. So this shows me a history of all of the kind of recent IM chat conversations that I've been a part of. Just got a message here from Brittany, so it shows me a little icon here with a red 1 here, and another icon over here with a red 1. Also, because I have multiple screens, you didn't see it, but I had a little pop-up from the clock area that showed me that new message that just came in from Brittany. And so, yeah, this is all of my current conversations that I'm having. So conversation that I had in the last couple of days shows up in here. I can highlight this message. I can come over here and I can respond back to the message, and we can continue our conversation here. Now, this is just, like I said, my recent kind of current conversations. If I'm not looking at it from this perspective and I want to start a new conversation, I can always go back to my contacts tab or even my quick dialer to find the person I want to have a conversation with. Let's say I look at Scott and look at the messages tab here. I can start or continue a conversation that we had before. It keeps this history indefinitely, so it goes way back. And if I come over here, I can find Brittany. I can also continue this IM conversation from here, from my contacts tab, or from the messages tab. So kind of same. The next one down here, meetings. This one has kind of fallen out of use a little bit because of some changes. Used to be integrated with the conference bridge. Now it's kind of integrated with the My Teams meeting, which is a cloud meeting platform from Mitel. Don't have a lot of people using that. We don't have it tied in to our system, so I can't really show that. What I can show is, if you do a new event, if you're doing a video conference, it's going to give you this link here, which links to the My Teams Mitel meetings, which I don't have integrated on here. So that's not going to take me anywhere. I can do an audio conference using my Mitel conference bridge that's built into my into the phone system. So I can schedule a meeting here. And let's see, we'll just give it a new meeting here. Schedule it for later today. We'll create that meeting. So you can see what that looks like. Here's the meeting here. If I go into it, I will have the dial-in info for my conference bridge. If your system does have the conference bridge component built into it, you'll have the dial-in info. There's a phone number here that people can call into, and then they can put in the participant code to join the meeting, similar to the way many of you probably joined this meeting today. I can copy this information if I want to put this into a an email message or an Outlook invite. So you have that option here. Of course, you can edit the event here. Like I said, because the integration with My Teams for the video meetings, most people are not making a whole lot of use of the meetings right there, except for the couple folks that do have that My Teams integration enabled.
Hey, Steve, we got a question. Can we jump back into
Yeah,
voicemails? We had a question
absolutely.
asking if we can save voicemails to an MP3 file, and if so, how?
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's a great question because we do get asked that from time to time. It does, of course, depend on, there are permissions that control that. So I always like to put that out. In some cases, they have removed that ability for various reasons, but there is a permission that enables that or not. So you may or may not see this option. But if I come over here and I grab one of my voicemail messages here, let's see, this is the new version. So I haven't looked at that in a while. Okay, same as it always was. So you can just right click on the message, and I get an option here to download the voicemail as a WAV file. And so, I do have that permission. So if I download that, it's going to ask me where I'd like to save that. So I could, maybe put it on my desktop or whatever, save that message. And so yes, we can download it as a WAV file and save it. Like I said, based on user permissions. Yeah, so that's a good question because we do get asked that. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve.
All right, and the next thing I want to show here, kind of the last tab we're going to get to on the face of the Mitel Connect software here, is the work groups. You may or may not have this depending on the way your system's configured and whether or not you are a member of any work groups. So the work groups are a feature that we use in a couple of different ways on the Mitel Connect system. Sometimes they're used just as a general mailbox. So if no one's able to answer the call, maybe to our sales department or to our support department, maybe we route those messages to a mailbox and we kind of get to them after the fact, but there's a team of people that are kind of responsible for that mailbox. And so that's a case where we might use a work group just for the mailbox purpose. The other way you can use a work group is kind of like a what's called ACD, which stands for Automatic Call Distribution Group, which means I can send calls into this work group, and then I can route them to a member of the team. So we could have 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, whatever people, members of this work group, and we can distribute the call to the next available agent. So in that case, the agents or the members of the work group would actually log in to make themselves eligible to take calls from the work group. And then they would log out to kind of take themselves, out of that work group. There's a couple of different groups which we've kind of covered in some of the administrator training. There's hunt groups, work groups, and then of course contact center groups. This one kind of falls in the middle as far as capabilities go and features. So again, so this is our work groups tab. If I'm a member of a work group, I can come in here and I can, see all the different work groups that I'm a member of. In this case, I'm a member of one, which is this general mailbox, or MB is what we shortened that to. And I can come over here and I can look at voicemails. So right now there are no voicemails for this group. But again, if this was this is a shared mailbox for a team of us to check, and if one person in the group is, checks that message, it shows that the message has been heard to anyone else who is a member of this work group and is checking, this voicemails tab in their Mitel Connect client software. And if I take care of that message and I delete it, then it's going to be deleted for anyone else who has visibility to this shared mailbox. If we're using it for actually routing and queuing calls, then I can come over here and I can take a look at the queues, and I'll be able to see, right now, of course, there are 0 queued calls in this work group. I can see the longest queued call, the longest queued and longest call. So that'd be active call if a call was on with one of our agents. If I'm an agent, I can see here right now this work group icon is red, and that means I am not logged into this work group. If I log into the work group to make myself eligible to receive calls, now this icon goes green, so that I know now I'm taking calls for the work group. I can also choose to put myself into wrap-up mode. So wrap-up mode is a feature of call queues, which kind of at the end of a call typically, maybe I need to, after I end the call, I need to put in some notes and kind of wrap things up. So there's an automatic timer at the end of the call that puts me into wrap-up mode, lets me, put those notes in, catch my breath, take the next call. Or if I need to manually put myself into wrap-up, I can click the button here, and instead of red or green, now this icon goes orange and shows me that I'm in kind of wrap-up status for this work group. Now, because I am I've designated myself as a workgroup supervisor in the Mitel Connect director in the admin web interface, because I'm a supervisor of the workgroup, I can also take a look at the other agents who are in this workgroup, and I can see, if they're logged in or logged out, if they're on a call or not. The flashing right here indicates that Ryan's phone is ringing right now. Not necessarily for a work group call. It could be for a call direct to his extension, or a call from another group, because we don't have any calls that are currently routing through this work group. And as a supervisor, I can actually log in these guys. Whoops, didn't mean to call him. There we go. So you highlight them and then you set them as logged in, logged out. You know, and I can put them in wrap or end the wrap up. So that would make him eligible to take calls again. So if you end wrap, you know, over here, like I'm in wrap up, if I end wrap, I'm orange, I'm going to go back to green, which makes me eligible to take calls for this group. And so that's the work group. Like I said, list of queued calls for this work group, the agents, the voicemails for this particular work group. If I have multiple work groups, they're going to get listed out here. All right, so back to the base kind of view here of the Mitel Connect client. There is another icon down here I'll point out, which is just this little arrow, so you can kind of make the screen a little bit more compact, as long as you know kind of what these icons are going to get you to. You got your contacts, your call history, your voicemail, your messages, your meetings, and your work group status here. Or you can expand it out so that you can get the labels on there. All right, so now I want to go back up here, and again, I want to highlight a couple other features we can get to from the main screen here. If I click on my name here, I'm sorry, if I click on the little 3 dots here, they've changed that a little bit, I can get to these availability states. So we talked earlier that I was, you know, you can see at a glance that I'm in the green available state, which means I'm ready to receive calls from anyone who tries to call me. I can choose to put myself in these other call handling states, in a meeting, out of office, on vacation, do not disturb, and then they have one called custom. By default, your available state will ring your phone, whatever the system default is, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and then kind of go to your voicemail box. And by default, again, all these other states will essentially send the call straight to your voicemail box and play your voicemail greeting. But each of these availability states can have a different voicemail greeting, or you can even set up different call handling for these different availability states. So maybe if I'm in a meeting, I don't want it to go to my voicemail. Maybe I want it to go to, you know, someone else in my department. I can actually configure it that way so that whenever I come over here and click on in a meeting, I have it pre-programmed that it's going to send those calls to someone else. And so all I have to do is kind of click on that real quick and select it to turn that on and off. You can also, there's a little edit pencil icon out here next to each of these. So that's where you can actually put a little note on that availability state. So in this case, it says be back at 12:30. I can say done. And now if I put myself into that availability state, anyone else who's, you know, looking at their contacts tab and takes a look at me is going to be able to see that note that says be back at 12:30. So I can give my team a little bit of information about, you know, why I'm not available at the moment. And so, like I said, we've got several different availability states to choose from. If we want to go affect the settings for those availability states, we can come down here to the settings. And I'm going to minimize this just so it's a little bit clearer kind of what we're navigating to. Start from the very beginning here. So we click here and we come down to settings. And now we have several different settings we're going to get into, but right now we're going to talk about call routing. And so this opens up the call routing settings window. And right here, it's showing me my available state and, you know, what the system's going to do when a call comes to me when I'm in this available state. So it shows incoming calls are routed to my desk phone. So I have a phone on my desk, it's going to ring. This phone will simultaneously ring. So I have this configured to ring this other phone simultaneously. I really like the simul ring feature for a couple of reasons. One is, you know, maybe I'm just down the hall, someone calls my desk phone, it rings my cell phone at the same time, I can grab it on my cell phone. And then there's actually a feature where if you do take a call from your cell phone, there's a button on your desk phone that will immediately bring that call back to your desk phone. So I can sit down at the desk, I can hit that button and pick it up on my desk phone, set my cell phone down, and continue that call. So simul ring is nice for that. I can see here that it's currently set for 5 rings before a call goes to voicemail. I do have a voicemail greeting recorded for this, again, for this availability state. Callers are allowed to leave a voicemail. I could change that if I wanted to. Callers who press 0 during my voicemail greeting will be forwarded to the auto attendant. So again, there's another setting that we can change where maybe we don't want it to go to the auto attendant. Maybe we don't want to go to the company receptionist. Maybe we want it to go to, again, somebody else in our team. We can change each of these settings individually, or I can click the button here to start a wizard, which will walk me through those settings one after the other. So the simultaneously ringing, next, 5 rings, I can change that. Next, the Find Me feature. The Find Me feature is a feature that works with your voicemail box. So once the call has, rang to your phone, maybe you have simul ring, so it also rang to your cell phone a certain number of times, but we've given up and we've said send the call to voicemail. Now we can choose if we want to invoke the Find Me feature. So with the Find Me feature, when the call is in your voicemail box, you can record in your greeting. You can say, hey, I'm away from my desk right now. If you'd like to try to find me, press 1. And then the system will come out here and you can select what numbers you'd like it to try to find you at. So I can say cell, I could add another phone number. You could actually have it try 2 different phone numbers. So maybe I want to have it try me at my cell phone. Maybe I want to have it try me at my home phone. Maybe I work from home and I want it to kind of ring everywhere. You can do that. And then again, if the system's able to reach you on these alternate phone numbers, it'll transfer that call to the number it reached you at. If it's not able to reach you, it still kind of has that call. It still has control of that call. It'll say, I'm sorry, we were not able to locate your party, and it'll continue to allow that person to leave you a voicemail. So that's the Find Me feature. Like I said, works a little bit different than simul ring because it happens after the call reaches your voicemail greeting. I'm going to say next on that for now. Now we're to the voicemail greeting portion of my settings. Now again, we're only talking about my available call handling state. So I can record a greeting here. So if I click the button here, it's going to walk me through, again, using my PC microphone or my telephone to make that greeting. I canceled out of the wizard. And then, the last step there was, yes, callers can leave voicemail, and if callers press 0 while listening to your greeting, where would you like them to go? So the default in our system is the main auto attendant, but maybe I want to send them over here to Brian. So if somebody presses 0, they're going to ring over to his phone. So I can save that, and you'll see that this changes here. Callers who press 0 during the voicemail greeting will be forwarded to extension 1456. So that's just the available state. So you have the same settings available under in a meeting, except like I said, by default, incoming calls right here are immediately routed to voicemail. So it's not going to ring my phone. I don't have any phones set to simultaneously ring. And right now it says no voicemail greeting is recorded. So I can come in here and change that if I want to. Again, I can press the 0 option, all the same options here. Maybe instead of calls are going to my voicemail, like I said before, maybe I want calls to go to someone else. So again, I'm going to send them to Brian here in the system. And I can save that. Sorry, always forward 1456. The setting up here was after a certain number of rings. So, but to always forward when I'm in a meeting availability state, I set that down here and save that. Oh, what did I do there? There we go. Save that. So now I can see by looking at the summary of my in a meeting, that incoming calls are immediately routed to 1456 anytime I have that in a meeting turned on. So once I have those settings set the way I like it, again, I can just come over here and set in a meeting, and all those calls are going to be diverted over there to Brian's extension. Or I can come in here and put it in out of office, give my note there. And all those calls are going to be diverted into my mailbox with the greeting that I've recorded for my out of office call handling. Let's see. So I also want to show down under this, again, under the three-dot menu. So we've looked at changing our availability modes there. We also have primary assignment. For a lot of users, the primary assignment is always going to be their desk phone, and that's kind of how it's always going to work. The desk phone is the actual Mitel handset on your desk, and that's where you want your calls to go. If maybe, a lot of folks are using soft phone, either because they're working from home or just because it's a little bit easier set up for desk space or other reasons, you can choose soft phone. So if I use soft phone, what that means is I'm not using a Mitel handset on my desk. I am using my computer as the kind of audio device for my extension. So that means whatever speakers and microphone I have attached to this computer are what I'm going to be using for my phone calls. So that could be a Bluetooth headset that you have linked to the computer. It could be a USB headset. Or, if it's a laptop that has just a built-in microphone and speaker, that can work. Those usually don't have the best sound quality, so I've used that in a pinch before when I had no cell phone reception and I could get out on the internet and use soft phone from my laptop using the kind of the built-in microphone. So that's another way that you can assign this. If you do choose soft phone, it's actually, you're going to see the extension. If you do have a desk phone, you're going to see the extension leave that desk phone. Your desk phone is going to show anonymous because there's no extension tied to that physical device anymore because the extension is now tied to the computer. The third option here, external number. This is another nice feature for work from home type users. If you have access to the Mitel Connect client, either because your computer's on a VPN or you have a remote desktop or Citrix terminal server type environment, something like that. As long as you have access to the Mitel Connect client, you can set your primary assignment to external number. Now, what external number is controlled under settings? But what that means is any calls that come to you are going to go to that external number, but you're still going to have control of it through the Mitel Connect client. You'll be able to, just like we did before, transfer the call to your contacts, use the transfer, conference in other people. Also, if you make a call, so if you come up here to the quick dialer and we start dialing a number, and you are currently assigned to your external assignment to your cell phone, what the system does is it actually sets up a call to your cell phone first to kind of open up that audio to you, and then the system dials the phone number that you've asked it to dial here, and then it kind of ties those two calls together. So in that way, it always looks like the call's coming from your office, even though you may be making the call, using your cell phone. Again, that's a feature of the external assignment. And to show you that again, if we come into our settings, primary assignment, this is the same options here, desk phone, soft phone, microphone, but we have an external number, and we have a little bit more control by coming into the settings here. So desk phone is desk phone. Soft phone, when we come in here, we can choose if we have multiple audio devices, we can choose which audio device we want to use for our soft phone. If we have multiple headsets or microphones and speakers. And then external number, we can come in here and designate multiple numbers. We can add multiple numbers if we need to change it from home phone to cell phone, kind of day to day. We can edit the phone number and then choose which of those phone numbers we have currently selected as our external assignment number. So that's where we kind of control the settings for it, or we can change it from here. Kind of two different ways to make that change. But if you don't need to access the settings and you just need to make a quick change, you can click here, click soft phone, and you're good. And I'm going to put it back on desk phone for right now. Okay, so I'm going to come back to settings now, and we're going to take a look at a few other settings. So we looked at primary assignment. That's one we just looked at. My conference, again, if you do have the conference bridge, the service appliance as part of your Mitel Connect system, you'll have, and you have the permission to use the conference bridge in the system. It's going to give you this conference bridge setting here. Again, this is an easy way to access this is called the reservation list conference that everyone gets. That's kind of open all the time. I can, again, copy these details so that I can use this in an invite for like an Outlook calendar event. I can edit it if I want to edit the organizer codes, participant codes, that sort of thing. But that's where you can access your conference details. Voicemail, so coming down under voicemail, again, we're under settings. So I have a couple different options. Play envelope information when listening to messages. That's just where the system voice is going to come on and basically state, this message was left at this time from this caller ID. You may not need that if you're looking at it on screen, because you're also going to get that information on the screen. So you may not need to hear it in addition to seeing it. So that's why they give you an option to turn that on or off. Under setup in here, I can change my numeric voicemail password. So if I'm calling into the system, either from the outside or on my phone, and it asks me to key in my password for voicemail, I can change that password here. This is also where you can record your name for the default voicemail greeting. So if you don't have a full voicemail greeting recorded, where you'd say, "Hi, this is Steve, I'm out of the office today." If you just record a name, the system will insert that name into a default voicemail greeting. So the system voice will come on and say, "Hello, you've reached the voicemail for extension or for," and it'll play whatever name we've recorded there. And it kind of does the same thing with these different availability states. The in a meeting, out of office, it'll insert that name into a default canned script if you have not recorded a custom voicemail greeting for that state. So example, it'll say, Stephen Hall, using my voice recording, is in a meeting. Or it'll say, Stephen Hall is out of the office. So yeah, again, back to settings, voicemail. This is where you can come and re-record just that name part instead of the full greeting. And then the last tab here for voicemail is the escalation option. So if you really need to know that a voicemail has been left in this voicemail box, you can add what are called escalation profiles. And you can choose, do I want to run this escalation profile each time a message is left, or for the first unheard message. So usually for each new message, if it's that important to set these up, that's probably the way you want to have that set. And I can add a new profile here. I can give it a name here, but what's important here is what we can do here. So I can send an email notification. Now there's another place where we can send an email for every voicemail, which a lot of people have turned on. But this is where we can basically send an email if the message has not been checked within 10 minutes. We can also, because these are checkboxes, we can select more than one of these. We can put in the email address, but then we can also send a phone notification. So we can actually make an outbound call from the system to someone's cell phone, and it says, a message has been left in extension 1455, and gives them the opportunity to walk through and check that message. You do have an option to notify only for urgent messages. So, when you're leaving a voicemail message, you have that option to press a digit to mark that message as urgent. So you can choose as to whether or not you want to only run this notification for those urgent messages. And then you can choose how many times you want to repeat that. So you can have it keep calling out, and you can actually add multiple steps so that you can say, like in our case, we have a mailbox that we kind of want to make sure gets responded to at all times. So the way we have it set up is if no one checks it in the first 10 minutes, it sends an email and reaches out to person A's phone number. If no one checks it, if that person doesn't get it within, another 10 minutes, we're going to add a step and we're going to send it to another person's phone number. And then again, if that person doesn't get it checked in 10 minutes, we can add a step and we can send it to another person's phone number. So you can keep going up to 10 steps, and then you can actually repeat this profile up to 10 times. So you can just keep calling over and over and over again until that message gets checked, and you can add, like I said, up to 10 different numbers or email addresses. So that's a way to make sure that a message does get attention if you need to have that set up. That's a little bit different than under notifications. I'm going to skip down from the voicemail setting to the notification setting to show this is kind of the standard setting. If you just want to fire off an email every time a voicemail gets left in your voicemail box, you can choose an option here to send an email notification. This is the email address of this user, so it's pre-filled in for me. And I can choose here to attach the voicemail as a WAV file. And so I'll have a WAV file sitting in my email box for every voicemail message that comes in. I can also choose, if I'm sitting at my desk and someone comes in and leaves me a voicemail message, maybe I want to have an audio alert where my computer, rings a bell or something and lets me know. And then I can also get a pop-up, for incoming call, incoming IM, incoming voicemail. You get the little pop-up from the kind of the clock area to let you know about that. So that's the notification section. We do have a couple of Outlook integration options here. First one here is to sync my Exchange calendar with my Mitel Connect availability modes. And so what that means is when I create an event on my Outlook calendar, I can have it automatically put my phone into in a meeting mode. So maybe I don't want calls coming through to me while I'm having that meeting. I can designate that in my Outlook calendar item. You can also use your Outlook work hours to switch the Mitel Connect availability to out of office. So in Outlook, there's a setting, and I can say what my typical work hours are. And then the system will automatically come up here and toggle this setting from available to out of office based on those typical work hours for me. Again, that's under the Outlook section here. And then a couple different options here. Do not open an Outlook contact when adding a contact to Connect. So yeah, typically if you're adding a contact just to connect, maybe you just want to have them access for kind of a quick dialer function. You don't need them added as an Outlook contact. And then the other option here to sync my Outlook contacts. So yeah, this needs to be turned on so that when I'm typing up here and searching in the quick dialer, I'm going to be searching not only my Connect contacts, but also my Outlook contacts. So yeah, that's everything I had to show you.
All right. There we did get a question that came in, Steve. It's asking, is there a way to check who cold transferred to you?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's another question we do get from time to time. So that's a good one. Thanks for bringing that up. If you're on a live call, let me dial a live call real quick here. All right, so I've got a call coming in. Answer that and mute that. And so right here, while I'm on a live call, I have this routing slip here. You can choose to show this or not by clicking on the button here, and it'll show me kind of how this call navigated the system. So in this case, I just called out to him. But again, if this call would have come in from an auto attendant, maybe spoke to someone else and got transferred to me, that's all going to show up in the routing slip. And you'll be able to see that routing slip on a live call right here. If it's a call that you've, maybe you already got off the call, but you need to go back and figure that out after the fact, I can go back to my call history here under the recent tab, and I can select a call here. I'm trying to think if I have a call that might have bounced around or not. I'm not sure. But any specific call that I take a look at here in my call history, I'm also going to see the routing slip. So in this case, this call just came straight into me, so there's not much to the routing slip. But again, like I said, if this call would have come in, navigated an auto attendant, maybe it hit a call queue, maybe it talked to somebody else, they transferred it. Even if it gets transferred 2 or 3 times, that is all going to show up in this routing slip. So hopefully that answers that.
Yep. And then one other question came in as well. They would like to know if you could go over the intercom function again.
Yes, the intercom. So the intercom function in the system, what that means is essentially calling another extension, and instead of them having to pick up the handset or answer the call or kind of take any action, what you're doing is you're just going into their speakerphone and talking to them that way. So with the intercom function, there's a couple different ways you can use the intercom function. One is just to directly call them and speak to them, via their speakerphone. And then there's what's called the intercom transfer, which is, maybe I'm acting as a receptionist. I receive a call. I want to transfer this to this person. Instead of ringing their phone, I can just come over their speakerphone and say, hey, I've got, Bob on the phone for you here. Here he comes. And then I can complete the transfer to them. They do have to, pick up their phone to actually take the call that you're transferring to them. But you can announce the transfer over their speakerphone. We don't see that used a whole lot. Most people prefer to have their phone ring and them to have a choice as to whether or not to answer it. Sometimes you see that in kind of a boss secretary situation where they want to have that intercom feature where they can just kind of chime in with the call that way. But yeah, that's another feature that's controlled by permissions. So that if you need that turned on, we might need to look at the permissions set up in your system. But hopefully that answers that. And like I said, if you need any specific details on any of these features, feel free to reach out to our help desk, and we can definitely go into that further. But otherwise, I hope everyone has a great day, and thank you for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Steve. Always informative. We'd like to kick off the new year with something that everybody can use. Well, again, we appreciate everybody for joining us today. And next month, we will have Mike DeFilly, and he's going to be going over admin training. So we hope to see everybody there.